You know, when I saw Salem on top of that whale at the end of Volume 7, finally leaving the house and being physically in the same spot as RWBY and the others, I believed Volume 8 would step into something new. This wouldn't be your average volume, and RWBY would feel, I guess, brave enough to step out of their comfort zone. And I am happy to say that I at least feel like I was right. After Chapter 1, I feel like the chapters were just getting better and better. Every chapter has just the right amount of new and interesting fun, and at times even tension, and it's kept me interested in wanting more. Yeah, there are some negative things I want to talk about, but I can't deny that I'm actually having fun while watching these chapters, and I find myself wondering what's going to happen next when it ends. So, I already did a reaction for Chapter 1, link will be in the description, hopefully. So this video is going to cover from Chapter 2 to the current chapter, which, at the time of this recording, is Chapter 6. So, if whatever negative thing I say in this video gets fixed in the next one, don't worry, because after this I'll be reviewing the new chapters separately, so it'll be fine. But before we get to the talk, just want to thank you all for watching. If you end up liking this, if you can, then just hit that like button at the bottom. You'll see it if you just scroll down right there. Yes, perfect. If you want to know when I upload next, subscribe, and also leave a comment. I'd love to know what you guys think about this volume so far. Negative and positive comments welcome. So I want to talk about different things in this volume, starting with the characters. And to not just go all over the place, I'll focus on our time with the different teams in this volume. You know, Jailbird, RWBY's team, Yang's team, so on and so forth. And I'll try to order it from least important in my eyes to most important / interesting for me. So alright, at the very bottom we have Jailbird, which is Robin and Crow, and to an extent, Watts and Jock. We've only gotten 2 scenes with this group, and they're pretty short and put at the start of the chapters they're in, and these are really just for building that relationship between Crow and Robin, whether it be partners in crime or something more. And their scenes together are nice, for the most part. There was this one time where Crow was telling Robin about his problems, and Robin just flips the conversation to focus on her problems. Like, I get you're trying to relate, but I don't see the comfort in just barfing out your issues when someone is trying to confide in you. Despite that though, I can see them coming together, and none of them are doing anything dumb, which is, well, a step up from the last time we saw them. The reason I put them at the bottom though is because, well, they haven't actually done much. Like I said, they do talk, but they're also just sitting in their cells. The plot isn't moving forward, we're not learning any new information that can help against Salem or Ironwood. We're just sort of talking about the past, trolling the Aesops, and trolling us for that matter. In a perfect world, we'd be building this relationship while also advancing the plot to keep things interesting and moving. I mean, I thought they'd be trying to break out by now, but they're still just sitting there. A positive about this group though was Watts and Jock in Chapter 2. They were both just so wonderfully dickish that I couldn't help but love them. From their exaggerated body movements to their dialogue, they were a pair of unapologetic assholes, and I had a lot of fun watching them.
I am a victim.
You do realize you've already caught me?
Honestly, there were a lot of scenes that could have been cut in that chapter. We could have used that time to give more screen time to these two. Maybe learn something new from Watts about Salem, which would solve the problem of nothing really happening in this group. We then switch to the Atlas team, who have just decided to turn into every army ever in Doctor Who. For those of you who haven't watched Doctor Who, first off, how dare you? Second, I'm basically talking about characters who make stupid decisions because their mind is fogged by sticking to protocol and pride. And those conflicts always end with the Doctor showing him or her up, like probably how RWBY and the others will do with Ironwood. I hope that's not the case. I hope Ironwood starts thinking again, because I would like his position to not just be 100% in the wrong. But with what happened in Chapter 5 with the scroll, I can't hold up too much hope. Winter seems to not absolutely agree with Ironwood's ideas, but we haven't gotten the chance to really get a scene with her and hear what she thinks, but it's clear she's getting close to that line. Her and Marrow, who also seems to have not only shown discomfort around the others, but also a bit more seriousness too. He's not into playing the elite soldier anymore like in the last volume. Of course that makes sense considering where we are and what's going on, but still, it's nice to see that character growth. He also seems to not be that much of a wimp around the Aesops anymore, even telling Harriet to chill, which, listen, that girl's unhinged, so you know that took a lot of guts. Speaking of the other Aesops, they're all really in the same boat at the moment. They're all about following orders, manipulating children, that sort of thing. They haven't really been given a lot else to say at the moment. But I think now that the Aesops in Winter, who I guess is now an honorary Aesop, are now on the field, they'll be given more of a chance to express themselves. Hell, these 3 have already started having thoughts of their own expressing how they feel about working with Watts and even Penny, which was surprising and nice to hear. So this will be pretty quick because they were only given 1 episode. This was a really good team character-wise. Alder were basically like a family. Even Maria, who isn't an actual member of this family, contributed to the should Penny make her own decisions discussion. And the best part was, she did it respectfully. She didn't try to manipulate Penny to see things her or Pietro's way, and she didn't insult Pietro to try and get him to see Penny's way. She just left her 2 cents, and when Pietro made it clear to move on, she did. But she backed Penny when she needed to. The trio just felt very wholesome and close. You know, maybe when this is all over, Penny can maybe get a mom, you know? Just saying. Maybe. Now this was a team that felt very balanced, I think is the right word. They had a little bit of everything. They had humor, and really good humor at that. We had Weiss getting sucked up and dying, and my favorite joke in possibly all of RWBY.
Read the sign, Bill! Read the sign! Why don't you ever just pay attention? You're in here late all the time, your coworkers...
Jokes like these help lighten the mood, because I honestly don't feel like this show would benefit from being serious and sad all the time. It's just not what RWBY is. For 7 volumes, they've mixed humor and seriousness in their episodes. Maybe not as well in some volumes, but... So why in their 8th volume would it be suddenly turned into Attack on Titan? It just feels janky and awkward, and not to mention edgy, and well, it'd make them look like they were trying too hard to be more adult or something. So I definitely do believe there has to be a good balance with the mood of the show. But like I said, there was a balance. So while there were some fun moments, we also had a time to sit down, breathe, and talk to the characters. We got a good look into Penny's head and Nora's head. I love how Penny has to seemingly fight for her humanity. The right to make her own decisions, and not just from Ironwood and Watts, but from RWBY and Pietro as well.
I want the chance to watch you live your life.
I am trying to.
With Nora, I'm actually starting to care about her and Ren's story again, and that mainly has to do with the talk that she had with Blake and Weiss. With this talk, Nora's problems feel like they're going past the surface level of that Ren doesn't pay enough attention to me plot they had going on last volume. The writers actually give Nora a compelling and relatable struggle that not only connects with her character, but it also leaves the door open to drastically evolve her character.
I don't actually know who I am. Without Ren.
And shake things up with both her and Ren. And having Weiss and Blake be the ones to talk to her and not RWBY, who's usually the person to get a pep talk from, it's something new and actually gets this group of kids to actually look like friends and one team, as opposed to 2 teams who have to work together. That's probably why I felt like after Volume 5, Team Junior wasn't really needed. They just felt like add-ons, awkward extensions to Team RWBY. But with all of these new interactions, everyone's starting to feel more like one friend group, which makes caring about how John or Ren or Nora feel a lot easier. So yeah, love how everyone's characteristics bouncing off each other, love the team, love their scenes. Well, there was one scene I didn't like, and it was the Whitley scene. There was really no need for Weiss especially to treat him the way she did. I mean, really, did you have to point your rapier at your little brother, Weiss? He's not a threat, and we all remember what her mom said.
Whitley wants nothing to do with me.
Of course not. You left him alone. With us.
After that talk, you'd think Weiss would be more understanding, but despite that scene, I overall liked the time we spent with these guys. Now, funny enough, I enjoyed Team RWBY more than Team Yang, but I was more interested in what Team Yang was going through, which is why I put them higher than Team RWBY. Of course, what RWBY's team was doing was important, but I just feel like Yang's team was more in the thick of it. Evacuating people, meeting the Hound, chasing the Hound, getting lost in the tundra. It was just a lot more exciting. That's not to say I didn't like who was on Team Yang. Like Nora, we got a good amount of time to get into Ren's head and hear him tell us how he really feels. Finally. And well, he has a good point. And so does Yang. They are just kids dealing with something bigger than them. Probably not the most ideal team for the job, but they are the ones that are there now. So they can't just have a defeatist attitude. They have to do something. Both Yang and Ren are both right in this situation. And it's not even about who's right now. The fact that the writers opened up this discussion to begin with, allowing both sides to air their grievances, means they're not just looking at this story through a narrow viewpoint. They're trying to make things more complicated, and having it be Ren and Yang, 2 people who have barely interacted in the past but would definitely butt heads, once again felt very natural and inclusive. It really does feel like they're just one team now, a team who work together but also disagree with each other. John also, I was worried since Volume 6 ended. I thought that the writers didn't know what to do with him other than make him broody because, well, that's how he's been for so long. So when his arc got resolved, I thought there wouldn't be much in the way of character for him. But I like Mediator John. Similar to Marrow, he stepped up, and he's really starting to feel like an actual leader now. So the villains have suffered many losses over the years. And it turns out all they needed was a babysitter. Turns out Salem can't leave her lackeys to do anything themselves, so she's stepping into the mix and yeah, there is a noticeable difference. In this volume, the villains actually feel like a force, especially Salem, who's really, at least for me, starting to fill that main villain role nicely. Actually, I felt like she was starting to give off those main villain vibes at the end of volume 7 when she was talking to Ironwood, but here she's really given the chance to show off. She always seems to have a plan, and I like that. It shows how competent and in control of everything she is. Of course, in the end, the heroes are going to have to outsmart her in order for the story to end. But right now, we as an audience should be questioning how they can even think about beating her. How would it even be possible? That's why I loved it when Ruby's message was going out and Salem was just smiling. Why was she smiling? I don't know. Is she going to use this message for her own benefit? I don't know. But that's what it looks like, and it's terrifying. Everything just seems so organized and efficient. I don't see how the heroes are going to beat Salem, and I love that. It's not just Salem. Hazel's getting what he wants too. He's beating Oscar to get that lamp information. I'll be honest, before chapter 6, a part of me didn't even want to cut back to Oscar. I was actually scared he'd be all bloodied and bruised, and I don't want to see that. The villains actually got me to feel scared of something, which is a major accomplishment. So Hazel, he gets to beat on a child, he's happy. Mercury, he's moving up the chain, he just got a promotion. Tyrion gets the simp, which seems to be all he ever needs. And Ironwood's acting a fool, so things are just going great with Watts. It's nice to see this change with the villains, and I believe that they've never looked better. Finally, I like how everyone is different. You've heard the complaints that our heroes kind of feel like a hive mind at times. At least in previous volumes. This one's fixing that, mostly with Team Yang. The villains though are very different from each other, and because of that, it makes the different dynamics interesting. I want to see these characters interact because they don't always agree, so that creates scenes where we hear these different ideals clash. And finally, dear old Cinder, because it definitely feels like she's trying to do her own thing this volume. I don't really want to talk about Emerald and Neo too much because they're pretty simple. Emerald's still blind, maybe she's starting to see some sense, but that's it. Neo's also getting tired of all this shit, and I'm wondering if she's going to escape. Don't really know where her story's going. She still hasn't faced Ruby yet, and I'm hoping that we'll get to that soon because that's really her only goal at the moment. But now Cinder. The writers seem to be trying to make this her volume, possibly her tipping point. At the end of the volume, she could be either dead or striking out on her own, betraying Salem and trying to do her own thing. They keep having her lose battles over and over, and I think it will push her to do something drastic. In the latest chapter, we got Cinder's backstory, and it was basically everything someone would expect from a Cinderella-based character. With the evil stepmother and sisters, and the cleaning, and the murders, okay, that was pretty out there. Nonetheless, it wasn't a story where I suddenly saw Cinder in a new light. Her story was sad, but it wasn't strong enough to suddenly make me start caring about her. This backstory seems more like a start for furthering Cinder's development, a base. It's hopefully not supposed to get you to start caring about Cinder or sympathizing, but it's the beginning of a path towards those feelings. To be honest, I definitely think this is a path that should have been shown to us back in Volume 4. I definitely think this is too late in the game, but hopefully I'll enjoy where her character ends up nonetheless. I will say though, funny enough, this backstory helped make Salem look good. I just love how she can manipulate people, and I love how she knows how to manipulate every one of her subordinates. She knows, unlike the orphanage, unlike Snooty Poo over here, that the more you push Cinder, the more over the edge she gets. So it's best to remind her who's in charge, but to a point. I don't know why Salem doesn't just get rid of her honestly, but if she really needs to keep her, she knows just how to do it, and I love that. Side note, I can see why Cinder keeps losing all her battles. Her teacher lost to an 11 or 12 year old who just started training. Seriously? 2 hits with a sword and his aura's gone? I'm sorry Cinder, I didn't realize you were working with scraps back in the day. So, now that we're finally done with the characters, we can move on to the action in this volume so far. I was a little worried, I'll be honest, at the start, because we didn't get a fight in the first chapter. But if you saw my reaction, I said maybe they did this because they didn't want to have to just shove in a fight just to fulfill that we have to have a fight at the start tradition. But chapter 2 came, and the small fights we got just felt so stiff. Not to mention that annoying standing around that brought back bad memories of earlier fights with the Maya engine. I was worried we might be going backwards, but then chapter 3 hit, and we were getting good stuff again. Penny versus the Aesops, and while I don't agree that Penny should be able to use her new abilities so easily, they should have either been out of control or just not working. The fight itself was fun eye candy, and the Aesop's were actually working together, showing growth, and no one was just standing around. We then got the chase scene with Team Yang, and that's probably still my favorite fight scene of the volume so far. Just the hype of it all with the music, the fast pace, the constant moving, and the difficult environment. It kept me on my toes and my eyes glued to the screen. And the Amity fight? It was good. I love Penny and Cinder flying around the flying Colosseum and the interesting ways they use their respective maiden powers. Like Penny creating ice versions of her swords. Again, don't like she can use the powers so quickly, but anyways, we're past that. Funny enough, I also like Maria's fight with Neo and Emerald. I definitely preferred Ship versus Mecha because it was new, but seeing Maria go Master Roshi on Neo and finally teaching her humility, it was nice to see, even if it did come out of nowhere. Just real quick before we end this though, I just want to talk about the first song from chapter 6. I loved it so much.
Scrub the dishes in the sink. No one said that you should think. Shine the silver, wash the clothes, and when you're finished, darn the socks.
It was just so fresh and new, bringing to the scene this fairy tale ballroom feeling. When one of the evil brats took that strawberry from the cake, I actually thought she was gonna break into a ballroom dance routine. Look at her body movement and tell me she didn't look like she had a whole choreographed dance planned. I was just swept off my feet with not only the style of the music, but Casey's voice as well. She did such a great job with this one. I hope in the future of the volume we get to hear more different genres of music. So to end this off, I'm really happy with what we've got with this volume so far. We're moving so fast, but not crazy fast where we aren't given a second to breathe and just sit down with the characters. We're only halfway through and I feel like we've seen a whole volume already. Ironwood is leaning more towards the dumbass antagonist as opposed to the great antagonist that we got in volume 7. Hopefully he starts to gain some sense and does some smart plays in the future chapters. None of the characters really annoyed me yet. Hopefully that stays. The look of the volume is good, action is good, story is compelling. Other than the small stuff I mentioned, I've really just been having fun. I hope we can keep this pace going when we come back from break. There's one more episode before that, I know, and I hope it's a good one with a great cliffhanger, but I'm just saying I hope when we come back after that break, the hype is still strong and the pacing and fights and characters are still strong as well. I know I didn't talk about the Hound Grim in this video. I actually already made a video discussing that Grim, talking about what it is, what it could be, and what it could lead to. So if you want to see that, a link will be at the end of the video. But yeah, that's it for my review of the series so far. Tell me your opinion about the volume so far. Love it? Hate it? A little on the so-so? I'm interested to know if other people like this pacing as well. Also, tell me what you guys thought about Cinder's backstory. I'm interested to know if, in the end, it was too little too late. Alright? Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.